All right, just a minute, guys. The beer's great, the wine's great, the music was great, but we've got one little thing we like to do. We have, first of all, thank you all for coming. It was almost a tough night out there, so we appreciate that everyone showed up. We've done this now for about 4 years. Every year at the same place. We have a great time every year. One of the things we do, though, is since it is this season, we always have some charity that we always are participating with. We had the food bank for a couple of years. Last year we had this particular school, which I'll explain to you. It's kind of a unique situation. It's a school in India, a long ways from here, there's no doubt. But I have to admit, it's my involvement the band has really helped me with. My daughter went over a couple of years ago and visited the school and happened to tell the man who was running it that, well, he voiced a need for a master planner, and I'm an architect, so my daughter emailed me and said, well, kids do this to you, it's terrible. They get you in all kinds of situations. He emailed and she emailed and said, well, this school needs a master planner, and I thought, well, yeah, it's in India. Well, who would have known that the organization that actually is funding this school is in a town called Concord? So I actually got a call from Concord, and I got involved in the master plan. Actually, I went over first, and it was almost a life-changing experience. It was a really wonderful place. So let me tell you a bit about it. It's located in an extremely remote part of India. And by the way, some of you may have been here last year and seen these slides, and for that I apologize. There are new ones, but this is the best way to explain it to those people who haven't seen it before. So it's in an extremely remote part of India, which is up here, Arunachal Pradesh. It borders China on the north and the Himalayan mountains on the north, and Myanmar or Burma on the south. I've got too many things in my hand here. For those of you who can see this slide, this swath of white that runs up here is the high Himalayas. And this lighter green down here is the plains of Assam, which is another state. As you can see from the texture, at least, on Arunachal Pradesh, it's a very rugged area. It's foothills, but the foothills are not like well, we have some foothills that are like this, but these are 4, 5, 6, 7,000 foothills. The entire place is extremely rugged. It is sort of the Appalachia of India. And the same problems that our Appalachia have. It's a very poor area. In addition, the people that live there are essentially Tibetan rather than Indian, and they're Buddhist rather than Hindu. So there's a bit of discrimination too, frankly. But it's gorgeous. It's an exotic place. If you ever get a chance to visit either here or a very similar place, Bhutan, which is right next door, it's an amazing experience to visit. This is the monastery in Tuang, which is the largest city right next to it, and it's the largest Buddhist monastery outside of Lhasa in Tibet. But that's the typical landscape. And you can imagine the difficulty of terracing that land or building roads. As a consequence, it is extremely remote. Indeed, the controlling factor is how much arable land there is. And they have sort of maximized it with terracing as much as they can. If there's a bad season, people die because there just is not enough food. How do you get there? It takes a 2-day trip by car over a road that reminds one of the Burma Road, or a helicopter. That was actually myself and a Bhutanese architect I was working with. However, there were only 2 helicopters, and since I was there 2 years ago, they both crashed with a loss of life, so it's sad. The only way you can get there now is by truck. Oops. This is a typical village. It just kind of clings to the mountainside. As I say, it's extremely rugged. It's beautiful. You can see the mountains in the background, but beauty doesn't mean much if you don't have enough food. How do they live? Obviously, subsistence agriculture is one way. On the top, China and India fought over this country back in '62, and it was noteworthy, first of all, because nobody achieved anything, and secondly, because they were fighting major battles at 14,000 feet, which was unheard of at the time. But the army's there, so the government brings in rocks, and people have a full-time job. There's no gravel plants, so they break big rocks into little rocks by the side of the road for road building. But it's extremely poor. This might have been a picture, if cameras are around, 200 years ago. It really hasn't changed much other than dimensional lumber on the wall. That's a typical village or a village scene. And when times are bad, the ones who suffer, unfortunately, are the kids. If you can see here, those of you who can see, down in the lower right, this gentleman right here, he has a pink t-shirt on that actually says Concord, Massachusetts. He's the Buddhist monk who founded this school about 6 or 7 years ago. And he goes out every spring and interviews families in the surrounding communities to find children that are either orphans or their families are so destitute that they can't handle the amount of kids that they have. And he tries to bring in a class every year of 20. He says it's a very heartbreaking task because there are hundreds that would like to come in, but he can only take 20. Where is the school? Well, it's located on a ridge, and I think this picture gives an idea of how remote it can be. The mountains in the background, by the way, are in fact Bhutan, which is one of the most amazing places to visit if you ever want to take a vacation. It is just remarkable. There was one village on one side of the mountain and one on the other, and they got together and donated the ridgeline to the school. So how do they build a school? They bring in a bulldozer, and they bulldoze off to both sides the earth and build on the edges, and the centers become playing fields and gardens and things like that. It's very clever, but not easy to do. There's intermittent electricity. There's no water. They pipe in their own. It's a very difficult area. But the astonishing thing to me is that, as I say, it was founded in 2006, 2007. They have done a lot with virtually nothing. That monk started with almost nothing and built this school up in 7 or 8 years. It's really remarkable. And it's good construction. It's somewhat indigenous architecture, but in a modern sense also. It's very nice. When you arrive, you're greeted by kids who are at least as eager to find out who this visitor is as I was to find out where I was. Extremely cute kids. They're all Tibetan extraction. In this case, this was a woman who actually came with me on the helicopter, and she brought a camera with her and had shot a picture of the kids, and they were all clustered around looking at their own pictures. So I compounded it further by taking a picture of them looking at their own pictures. But extremely handsome kids and very smart and very happy to be where they are. As I say, these are generally orphans or come from families who simply cannot support them. Oops. They live in families of 20 to a room. And the lady right there with the tall head that's standing up, sitting up higher, is an amla or house mother. And she is these kids live here 365 days a year from the time that they are in kindergarten. So she is their mother. And she handles 20 kids. I have 2. I marvel at that. And for that, she gets room, board, and $200 a month. But that's the standard of living there. It's actually probably on the low side too, but extremely loving people. The kids, we take, obviously, the food is Indian food. We're actually trying to bring in maybe some cows or chickens for milk or eggs to increase their protein. But anyway, unlike our kids when they go to school, these kids, there's now 80 kids and 20 staff. And the staff essentially is teachers, administrators, a driver, and a maintenance guy. The kids do everything else. They clean the classrooms, they raise their own vegetables, they wash their own clothes, they wash their own dishes. They do everything. And that's just the way it is. So there's no griping, nobody gets upset about it. That's just the way it is. Education, obviously, is a key thing. We're trying to get them so they can go to college. Not all of them will, so we also have a component called experiential education, whereby they will learn a trade if they don't want to go to college or something like that. But the hope is to take them all through. And it's key to understand that this school is really becoming a model for that region. In this case, there's a volunteer here. Volunteerism is very big. We get 50 or 60 a year, and it's a wonderful experience. Here he's teaching kids either, set theory, maybe mathematics, or solitaire. I'm not quite sure, but one of the above. This tall, good-looking lady here actually is my daughter who got me into this whole thing. She was doing some set design for a children's play. Just a couple of images. Medical care is very difficult. If you get sick in an accident, you literally have to drive for 2 days to get down to the plains to get to a doctor, and I can't imagine if you had a broken bone or something like that, how difficult that would be. We have facilities, but we don't have a critical mass yet to get doctors in full time. This is a local school run by local people, so they keep their cultural heritage, which is Tibetan, and they should run it themselves also, which is why it's becoming a model. In the upper part here is just an interesting image. This is another amalat, or house mother. In fact, the same one that was in the earlier shot with the 20 kids. This child right here was found in a ditch on the side of the road. The mother was there, but she was in an alcoholic stupor, and they eventually ended up adopting the child, and this house mother said, well, I'll take her, and so she now has 21 kids, one of whom is very small. Amazingly loving people. In the lower right here, and the only time I've seen him in monk's robes, is the guy who founded the school. One of the people I probably respect most in the world, Lapsang Sumchak. He's just an amazing person to be able to do. I'm not a Buddhist, so it's not the Buddhism so much, it's the fact that in 6 years, by sheer will, he built this school out of nowhere. It's really quite astonishing. It's getting recognized. In this case, the Dalai Lama took a congregation, met with a congregation, and gave a generous donation to the school also. Now, for those of you who were here last year, I'd like to show you where your money went. We did a very good job last year. We raised about $1,500 here, and in fact, one of the people here, David Fonseca, is he here? I don't know, but he introduced us to the Winchester Rotary, and they donated the same amount of money, and I'd just like to show you where the money went, because so often we send a check to charity, and it may be a wonderful charity, but you have absolutely no idea where the money actually went. So let me introduce you to a bandit. That's this guy right here. He's got soft eyes, he's got a very quiet demeanor, but he loves vegetable gardens. So we needed a way to keep him out. Now, barbed wire would be one way, but we would have to drive 2 days to get it, and it's not very kid-friendly. So we tried electric fences, but the power grid is only 4 or 5 hours a day. So this guy is not stupid. If he brushes up against those wires and nothing happens, he's going to keep walking. They now make a very clever photoelectric fence that gets power from the sun, stores it in batteries, and can keep the thing powered 24 hours a day. And it's an excellent example of actually how some of these third world cultures are leapfrogging the problem that they have of not having the infrastructure that we have. It's really remarkable. It's true with cell phones, obviously. It's true with power. We have solar panels up there that get a lot of power. Well, it's very interesting. But anyway, for those of you who donated last year, a solar fence was one of the things that was bought. Another was microscopes. The kids, as each class comes in, one class gets older. So we have the oldest kids that are now up to the 6th or 7th grades. And these microscopes are essential so that they can study science. In addition, so these were, the money bought this, your money bought these, and volunteers, we bought them on Amazon, and volunteers stuffed them in their suitcases and somehow got through security. And they took them over, and these kids are now looking at them, and you have to understand these kids don't have TVs in their homes, so they didn't see Nature or Nova or National Geographic or any of those shows. They're looking at a different world here, and it was quite an eye-opener out here. So that was another thing, and finally, some of the remaining money went into one of these buildings, and in the lower portion, a new building that we're building for some offices and some residences. The kids get all involved in this because there's no other way to get labor. You can't bring in a cement truck. There are no cement trucks. You have to crush all the stones yourself, bring in bags of cement, mix the cement, and put it out there by hand. And the kids get involved because, again, it's that experiential education that we're trying to foster. So finally, the real they say that the school is founded on the policies of love, compassion, and wisdom. And I was a Westerner. You guys are all Westerners. And I went over there thinking, well, I'm cynical. Let's see what this is all about. I was amazed. I actually saw it there. And it's also a school, again, run by the local people, which I think is a much better model for the developing world than to have, as fine as schools as they are, to have Buckingham, Brown and Nichols or Concord Academy or wherever establish a branch over there in their style. This is a local school, and it really does well. So, this was my last day. For those of you who could see, the faces on the kids are worth a lot. Why contribute to something that's this far away? Well, I did it because I always wanted to get involved in the third world as an American, and not through AID or something like that, as wonderful as that is. I just wanted to personally get involved, and I wanted feedback. So this was a good case in point. So anyway, that's the end of it. We're going to get back to music, and you can get back to the bar.
Do we give our money to you?
We're going to pass around. This is they're a subset of Tibetans called Mompas, M-O-N-P-A-S. This is one of the bags that they make locally. We're just going to pass it around, and please just put in whatever you can. And we sure appreciate it, or they would certainly appreciate it a lot. So that's it.
If you have a check, who do you write it to?
Oh, Jhamtse.
Go
I'll put the lead screen on, but it's.
It's E-I-L-E-R, Joe. I'll take the
Take the first word there, Jhamtse, and the second word is Jhamtse International. Okay, so it's just, I'll leave that up for a while. Okay?
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.